Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of, whoops, I gotta hit this one first. Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, as he does every other Friday, Tom Walls of the Firearms Academy of Seattle. Tom, thanks for joining us today, man.
Pardon?
I said thanks for joining us today, man.
Oh, you're always welcome. It's kind of fun. Gives us retired guys something to do when we're not teaching.
There you go. There you go. And besides, Tom, I think you need to calm down. Jeez, come on, man.
We discussed this. Relax. There's a segue for your episode today.
Yeah, what we wanted to do today, when we have Tom on, we like to talk about training topics. Last time that we had Tom on, we talked about situational awareness. Today, we wanted to talk about de-escalation. How if something starts happening, you can, and a lot, what I hear a lot, especially from popular firearms channels, is verbal judo. Is you can get things to go your way without ever drawing the firearm. You can talk your way out of things, or get to the point where the situation's resolved and the firearm never comes to play. I'm going to say one thing before we get started from my own experience. If the word gun ever comes out of your mouth, the phone needs to come out and you need to call 911. Just saying. If we need to later on, I'll explain why. If you really need to know why, you can just Google search Paul Lathrop. My story will come up. You'll find out why. Tom, I'm going to hand this over to you. I'm going to let you get started while I go get social media finished hooking up.
All righty. Well, just something about my background. I've been one of the instructors. I'm one of the lead instructors at the Firearms Academy for 17 some years, with a martial arts background and a law enforcement background, which means I'm old, and a lot of what I have learned about various topics blends together. So if I don't properly give attribution to something, if I'm making a quote or commenting on a way to think about stuff, I apologize, especially if Roy Miller or Mark McYoung are out there today. A lot of what I know about violence dynamics, not gun stuff, violence dynamics, has come from them, and readings of many, many other people, time with Masada Ayub, reading the classics from Gavin DeBecker and Pi Bateman back in the 70s. So Paul mentioned Verbal Judo, which is actually a trademarked company that has a system of engaging people and de-escalating them. We heard a lot about de-escalation back in the summer of 2020. There you are, with all the stuff we had nearby in Seattle. Firearms Academy of Seattle is actually about an hour drive south in a rural area. As if it was a magic thing. And the first thing that I think of about de-escalation is if you have just two people, a simple version, both people have to want to de-escalate. It's got to happen together. If you're with somebody that's really amped up, even if you're in your logical mind, by definition, they are not. And if they like staying there, if they're on the adrenaline rush or some supplemental pharmaceuticals, you're going to have a difficult, if not impossible, time bringing them back to a level where they can be reasoned with. Did you experience that with your encounter that you mentioned just a few minutes ago?
Yeah, there was there was very little that was going to. What took the situation changing was the mention of a gun and a command voice. That's what took a realization that there was the possibility that, things could turn around for this guy for the light bulb to go off, and hey, right. Maybe something could change here. And then things did change.
I think it's worth talking a bit about what happens when you need to be de-escalated, when you come out of that rational thinking that we like to pride ourselves on having as human beings, and get into what I believe it's Roy Miller calls the lizard brain. You've got the higher functions, you've got the actual functions, and then you've got the basic brain stem. We've all talked about the brain stem as a physical target for a bullet, but it's also the target for getting someone back into the rational mind. There's basically four things that start with F with the brainstem. It's basic survival function. It's fight, flight, or freeze, if you want to add another one. Food and procreation.
Okay.
Those things are driven by that at a very base level. Think of the hormones we had when we were 14. That's that base level. Everything is targeted at that procreation portion. Those are your hormones driving you. Imagine a 4-year-old that wants the toy and just is freaking out and yelling and stamping, and going to them and saying, "Look, Billy, you need to calm down." Has that ever worked in the history of calming down? No. We need to know what we can do to keep from escalating that situation, because a lot of that simply avoids needing to de-escalate in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
That's the majority of it. There are things you can do. Understand that if I did this without saying the words, look at the body language. Is that a relaxing influence to you? Okay. We're saying, you need to calm down. I'm aggressively pointing, poking, even though I'm not making contact. I'm leaning forward. I'm invading your space. Okay, there's territoriality. That's a basic mammalian defense response. I'm yelling at you. I'm telling you what to do. Do you like to be told what to do? I sure as heck don't.
No, not at all.
Nor does my wife. So, never works with the missus. And she takes it as an insult, and she should. You can avoid those things. Think how you respond when that's done to you. You were saying this really succinctly when we were talking off air before we started. Don't be a Richard.
Yes.
Okay. We talked about this last week when we talked about situational awareness. Don't be an asshole. If you can avoid it, you're much better off. And the ways that you can avoid it are simple, because both of you don't have to be amped up to de-escalate. When both of you do, you're in really dangerous territory, because you have 2 small children. Understand that when people are acting out and they are doing what Rory Miller calls the monkey dance, it's a threat display, and it's usually done in front of an audience. That's the easiest one to deflect. If I can leave my ego at home, again, something we talked about with last week. If I can leave my ego at home, maybe even destroy it altogether if you're really good at it, but just get away from the thought that I need to teach this guy a lesson. He can't do that to me. Those things never work. Of all the times some guy cut me off on the road and I, flipped him the bird, did he learn a lesson? I rather doubt it.
No.
As a matter of fact, that could have made it worse. It doesn't do any good. So if you can accept the fact that he's a jerk, do you really care what a jerk thinks of you, and move past that? You can prevent that from escalating. For instance, there was a video that's making the rounds now. A dude goes into neighbor's parking space, a reserved parking space in their living area, and it turns out badly there's a shooting. Well, the first thing out of dude's mouth when neighbor comes up to confront him is aggressive. I don't remember the exact verbiage. It was F-bombing a lot, and he was loud, and that escalated into a shooting. Imagine if he had said, I'm sorry, I'm just going to be here for a couple minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
He's making a reasonable explanation, if that person can still be reasoned with at this point early in the argument, and is asking permission. He's showing submission. Well, he can't tell me what to do. I'm not going to ask his permission. I don't have to. No, you don't have to. But think what it does. When you have an audience, that works even better.
Because they don't want to look like a jerk in front of an audience.
Yeah, and if you're trying to make amends, they have a chance to look magnanimous, like, yeah, I scared that guy off. Again, this is one of these I can't give an attribution. Maybe Greg Elfritz, I don't know. But he says to carry the my bad $20 bill. Have a $20 bill. If you're going out on the town, you're going clubbing, whatever you do, take a 20 separate from your roll of bills. So you're not pulling out a wad and just handing them one. Have a 20, say, hey, look, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insult your girl. Wasn't my intention. Look, have a drink on me and we're leaving. $20. $20 will get you out of most situations. As opposed to, well, I had the right to be here. Of course, the attorney is going to cost me a couple of grand. If you can leave the ego at home and make the apology, back down and act reasonable. When you go into a bar, Mark McYoung is famous for saying violence comes with instructions. You go into a bar and it's a bar you've never been to before and realize all these guys are wearing leathers that have the same patches on them, and they all stop talking and look at you as you come in the door. That's what we call a clue. Okay? You have apparently violated some rule that you were not aware of. And they'll say something like, hi, get the hump out of our bar. What's the answer? It's okay. Not. Yeah, the answer is okay. It's not, I have a right to be here. Yeah, I'm going to have one drink. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. You leave. They'll forget about you. You'll forget about them. Nobody gets hurt. You don't care what their opinion is of you. The instructions are basically, in this case, it'd be unspoken. Get out or leave. You know, stop looking at my girl. I'm going to beat the out of you. Okay, you were just given a choice. You want to escalate to getting that beat out of you, or do you want to go? Do you care what the guy thinks about you? And that's really hard to do. I'm not going to tell you I'm great at it. I still, sometimes when it cuts me up, I feel stupid, but I still do it. It's something we need to work on.
Yeah. We're getting some great comments in. I want to get a couple of them, if you don't mind, real quick.
It's always the best part.
First of all, Susan says, Paul, calm down.
Unit.
Pete over at Gum Website says, that's a great idea. $20. Get home cheap pass. Yeah, you're not going to find an attorney for $20. You're just not.
I really wish I could remember who I stole that from, because it's not an original thought. I'm thinking Greg Elephants. If I'm wrong and whoever came up with it, I apologize. Send a comment in. It's a great idea. Something else people do is, and I've had students actually do this in role play. They'll pull a throwdown out. You know, if you need to leave in a hurry, you don't have a 20. I have an extra money clip where the money shows. It's got a 20 on the outside and a bunch of ones on the inside. It's got a credit card. It's 3 years out of date, but you can't tell that until you pick it up. Hey, bud, I'm sorry. Here's, just buy yourself a drink. And somebody robs you and then leave. It's a lot cheaper than maybe producing a firearm and having things go south. If I can buy my way out of a gunfight, I'll buy my way out of a gunfight.
You know, and that brings to mind, as a former trucker, I used to have to carry, no kidding, 5 or 6 different loyalty cards. They look exactly like a credit card. Every gas station now offers a loyalty program. Just go get an extra couple loyalty cards. They look like credit cards.
It's like I said, if you can buy your way out of it, either by actually giving something of value, or throw away some of the ego maybe that you have too much of. Those are the things that will avoid getting to that point. Now, you may come up on somebody that's already over the edge.
Yeah.
They're already twitchy, and you could start something. Again, quoting Roy Miller, it comes usually in predictable stages. And again, men, if we can think back to when we were 14. Hey, what are you looking at? And of course,
not much.
I could have predicted that. Okay. So then we close the distance. We'll do a challenge either non-verbally by invading territory, or saying something like, okay, we'll puff up, we'll make ourselves bigger, and then we'll engage at some point, and they'll start. I've seen bar fights. It's classic. It's predictable as sunrise. If something doesn't happen, and again, an audience is important here. The more people are there, if you're trying to establish dominance, especially young men, they have to do it for the audience. Let's talk about audiences for a second. We had an interesting arrest of a young citizen that decided that He didn't really need to pay for his dinner at a local restaurant, so he did a dine and dash. Runs out of one run through another restaurant, comes out the back, and the staff in the second restaurant, he did not owe any money to them, but they knew what was going on. Apparently there was some behavior of his that was inappropriate. And they had him, and we were there to hook him up and take him to jail. He's on the ground. He's surrounded by 2 cops. I'm there. My partner's there. There's a supervisor on the way. There's at least 3 fairly large employees from restaurant number 2. And he's down on the ground, his face in the asphalt. He's threatening to kill all of us. Okay. My partner says, great, I get off at 9. Once we had him hooked up and in the car, he was a completely different person. There was no audience to play to. So there's that ego that he had that demanded that he behave that way. If it's a group of people, if you think again of the 14-year-olds, or 15, or in some cases 30 and 40, and they'll puff up and act that way when there's a group, they're depending on someone to pull them back. So they don't have to fight, but they could show that they were gonna, or they'll do some stuff and somebody will de-escalate. A pecking order is established in that group for that day, and it's fairly okay. When it goes beyond that, you get the contact. It's almost always a big looping right hand. And then the fight starts. If there are weapons, that's when they go. But it starts with that stare.
And we get one comment in, and then I want to go in. I want to go one place we didn't talk about off air. It just popped into my head and is way off in left field. But let me get this comment in here real fast first. Charlie Chambers said, in situations with a-hole walk and use one-party consent laws, in my humble opinion, just smile and be calm. I'm thinking back to the famous kid that was at the New York City protest, where the Native American walks up to him beating on the tom-tom. Right. The kid just sitting there and smiling while the Native American is getting right up in his face, and of course the media played it all backwards. But the kid ended up getting rich off of it.
I heard that, yeah.
The direction, and Lee, I'll get to your comment in just a second here. The direction I want to go with you, Tom, is the audience you just mentioned. And let me pull this one up. We live in a society where everything is done for social media, is done for an audience. And I want to introduce, 2 weeks ago when we talked about situational awareness, I want to introduce a little bit of situational awareness in here. If somebody's got a camera out and focused on you or focused on the other person, I want your spidey sense to be going up, 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 up just a little bit, and I want you to be thinking retreat, retreat, retreat right now. And you know, de-escalation, sure, but I want you to be thinking get out of there, simply because look, it doesn't matter if it's a knockout game, it doesn't matter this, doesn't matter that. They're looking to make a mark out of you, and they're looking to make a viral video of you being stupid. And you going to guns is not going to be great, no matter how it comes out.
Something you have said repeatedly in our discussions, you know, the best fight's the one you don't get into in the first place.
Yeah.
If you can see what's going on and you can understand what you're seeing, it's useful to give you some time, get some distance, maybe get a plan, maybe just turn around and leave. And as I have said, it's that leaving the ego at home. Places to avoid altogether. You know, how many people think, or how many people have told you, well, I carry a gun sometimes, but only when I need to. And the response from you is, of course, if you thought you needed to, why are you going
there? Yeah, and I'm glad your psychic ability is working so well.
Yeah, and remembering also, as I have said, and Tom Givens, to quote Tom Givens, it's a come as you are event, and there's no advance invitation. So you have to be ready. I carry a gun because I don't know when I'm going to need it. I don't know that I won't need it. If I thought I needed it, and I do think I need it sometimes, I just don't go there. And I've lost my train of thought. Oh my God, going bald and old at the same time is a horrible thing.
Then let's do this. Let me get a comment in. Lee says, in New Jersey, I tell people if someone's breaking in my front door, if I can, I'm running out the back door, screaming like a scalded monkey. It gets laughs. Alternately, in a free state, you'd have to deal with it emotionally and replace the carpets and repaint. In New Jersey, you get all that, then picture everything. Then you go over to the other screen where it's bigger. In New Jersey, you get all that. Then I picture everything taken to a hearing and likely spend $10,000 or so in legal defense.
Oh, Lee, you hit it in the head, man.
Well, Lee, and you're a little bit low. In my case, it was $15,000 to get to trial, and I never drew. It was $15,000 to get to trial, and then it went up. So
what I'm hearing from both Masad Ayub and Marty Hayes, who's the president of the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network, whose hat you are wearing,
yes,
is that you're looking closer to 60 grand plus, depending on how complex things get in the state you're in. I don't want somebody breaking into my house, but everything's insured. You know, I lost a house once in a landslide. Losing a house and losing stuff isn't as important to me as it used to be. All the really valuable stuff, jewelry, cash, firearms are locked in a safe anyway. The cats can hide. I really don't want to get involved in doing that. However, I don't want to leave somebody defenseless. If I have guests in the house, I'm responsible morally for their safety. My wife and I in the house, she would probably be out the door before I would, and I would cover her, or she would cover me. But yeah, leaving is a really great option, because really, what are you protecting? What's the end game? You've got to think beyond that, and Lee hit it perfectly with that question.
Let me get this comment in here from Michael over on the Facebook side. Many of us who can concealed carry are less prone to confrontations. Yeah, absolutely we are. And then Pete over at Gun Website, I love this comment. I only play the lottery when I feel I will win.
Yeah, PM me, dude. I wanna know how you're gonna do that. It really is a lottery. And again, quoting Tom Gibbons, he goes, I steal a lot of stuff, but I only steal from the best. It's not the odds, it's the stakes.
Yes. Yes. All right. All right. Let me get one more comment in here, and then see here. Lee says, better to avoid. Great discussion topic. Thanks, Lee.
Lee, again, you're on point. We had originally, Paul and I talked about how to de-escalate when you're there, and we're talking more about avoidance. I think that's maybe telling. You know, the whole idea of de-escalating, as I started out saying, we learned about that as a society in 2020, the riots. The police need to learn how to de-escalate. And again, you've got to have both sides willing to have that happen. When you're in that lizard brain, it's really nice to have the specialized training, the verbal judo that they gave me in Academy. I wish the course had been longer and I could have a refresher. Some of the hostage negotiation things that the professionals do is amazing. But if you've got somebody willing to de-escalate, understand first off that you're not going to reason with them easily. You're not going to say, look, dude, if you do this, you're going to go to jail. Their response is, oh, yeah? Well, it's going to be worth it. I mean, because that's what I would do if I'm not controlling myself well.
Mm-hmm.
What you need to do is to bring them up from that lizard brain, that basic, fight, flight, freeze, procreate brain, food, back into something more reasoning, and you need to slow them down. So think what happens. They're flushed, their heart rate is up, their fight, flight, emotional system is getting their body primed to do something explosive. Their voices are loud, they're fast, and speaking quickly. What you can do is first bond with them, match their cadence, and then you can start to slow them down. So Paul's really amped up. And I think, man, Paul, you need to, you really should consider perhaps this other course of action. What is it that you need, Paul? What is it that you want? I'm willing to work with you, but help me out here. Okay, you're engaging them, you're getting them to slow down. And if you can, and it doesn't always work, understand, but if you can get them to slow down, drop the voice a half tone, be relaxing. Don't tell them what they have to do or what they need to do, because that's that natural resistance. You can't tell me what to do. And they'll go right back up. I had this happen. I was in a parking garage at an employer when I was working, and I had left my truck in 2 parking spaces because I had an appointment to have my windshield replaced. And it was my intent, as soon as that was done, move it into another place, one spot. There were spaces available. Well, the security guard happened to be there, and he took exception to that. Okay, I understand. He didn't know that I was going through a severe family trauma and was not in my emotionally healthiest frame of mind. So my response was inappropriate. I said, hey, if you don't like it, tow the bitch. Okay. That's pretty much like, you need to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
He amped up. He was in a loop. He was repeating the same thing over and over. Sir, you need to move your vehicle. Sir, you need to move your vehicle. And he's bigger than I am, and he's got his taser and his uniform. And I, of course, raised up my level. And it occurred to me after I had committed that error. I committed the error. I own it. Oh, this is what's happening. We're escalating. He doesn't know that I had a bad day. I'm going to be the bigger person and go, okay, what do you need? Here's the situation. Is it okay if I look at this and do this? What's acceptable to you? Well, he calmed down. You know, I had not responded well quickly enough and got reported to my supervisor, and we had a conversation. Point is, I didn't know that he also had a really bad day. There'd been a traffic accident in the parking garage, and he was the one having to explain it to the insurance people and the supervisors, and his bad day was probably as bad as mine. You don't know what you're going to run into. Okay, I failed in that case thoroughly to avoid. I could have very easily controlled that situation. We would have parted friends and walked away and everything would be cool. I screwed that up. I was able to recognize he was also getting amped up, and I was able to calm it down before it had gone further. It had gone too far, but it's possible. But you have to control yourself and avoid the situations, because if you let yourself get ripped up like I did that time, it's going to be a lot harder. I got lucky. I didn't have anything.
I want to get we got some great comments coming in again. I want to get some
you're
more
looking over there, yeah.
Yeah, Pete over at Gun Website sent this one, and this may be the comment of the show, man. I've heard it suggested to ask question like, what happens next, or what do you expect us to do, to trigger their brain to focus on the situation and others involved.
I like that. Get them out of that moment and start thinking, start having them engage that more rational mind. That's a good suggestion.
And then going back to the Facebook side, Lee says, de-escalation in moments pays dividends. You can't put the bullet back in the gun after the trigger is pulled.
Yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to do. And remember, when you're carrying and the gun comes out and you're angry, there is going to be somebody there with that cell phone recording everything that happened. In your instance, Paul, you didn't even have to produce the gun. The words came out of the mouth, and police get the report. Guy has a gun. There's an altercation. Let's go contact him. Oh, you're the guy, and you have a gun. Quelle surprise. What a coincidence. Put your hands behind your back.
Yeah.
And a lot of trainers will say the same thing. You've got to be much, much more, what's the big word, circumspect about your behavior in public when you're carrying. You have to be more willing to leave, and you have to remember that you don't care what an asshole thinks about you.
Mm-hmm. Very, very much so. So we are coming down to the bottom of the hour, and so we need to think about putting this one to bed. Any thoughts on our way out the door about de-escalation, man?
Just to recap, best to avoid. I strongly suggest, if you can't get a class on the subject from any of the folks that I've mentioned, any of the serious top tier trainers can talk about this, do some reading. I recommend Rory Miller, Rory Miller. His books are available on Amazon. Meditations on Violence is the first one. Get into understanding how that works. Anything from Mark McYoung. Mark has got an exceptional insight into the psychology of that mind, because bad guys ain't like us, and the behavior of good people when we get a little crazy. Do some reading, do some studying, talk about it with your friends, and leave the ego at home.
Yeah, ego will get you. I have to work on that. I've been working on it for years, and post my medical issues last year, I continue working on it, and I still, even after my stroke last year, I have to work on it even more now, believe it or not, than I did. I've had some drawbacks. I still am working on ego and stepping down, taking it easy, and my interactions with people.
Don't feel guilty about it. It's a natural, hardwired thing into our brains. I mean, the Creator put it there for a reason. But understand that it's there and know that it's there. And remember the old Irish expression, many a man's mouth broke his nose.
All righty. I like that one. All right. And it's my mom, you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So
there you go.
Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to shut this down. I do want to encourage everybody, come join us tomorrow at noon Central Time for the weekend edition of The Bullet, and then next week, Monday through Friday, for the weekday edition of The Bullet. Thank you. We've got fantastic viewers, live viewers that comment. It makes this so much easier when we have people like today, people commenting and putting your views in. It just makes this flow so much. And thank you for everybody for doing that. Podcast listeners, there have been just such an explosion of you this month. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And please keep sharing the show. Everybody, thanks again, and we will see you tomorrow.
Well, everybody, take care. Stay safe.